Hi, this is another video from me. This is Christopher from DBG. So we got the download of the Warhammer 40K 10th edition that leaked. I think it'll be rude not to look at it, and let's see what our thoughts are. We're going to have the computer read out loud to us because I am so dyslexic. I don't see any words on a screen at all, and using the software is the easiest way for me to read the books, unless I physically have one, and then I can highlight and do all my overlays, etc. So do apologise if that's not your style, but hopefully you can follow along. I'll pause it at sections where I'll share my thoughts. So let's have a look. Please like, comment, subscribe, all of that jazz, and I'll be really interested to know what your thoughts are on 10th edition before you read any content. So please comment below, let us know what you predict is going to come out. I'll respond to every comment, but let's do a deep dive. We're going to split this video into sections. So going to do different phases and different videos for each one. Try and get as many as out as quickly as I can, so it's easier for you to follow, and it'll all be in a playlist called 10th edition as well. So without further ado, let's have a read or listen, and let's go for it. So let's have a look at the book. So we've got the first two pages, Leviathan and core rules. Now, it's a GW, and I've worked with GW, so I know you're capable of doing this, because they used to detect, or they used to have a team of staff that used to track or find staff or retailers that were selling things on eBay like before release or overpriced. That's what I got told anyway. I work for GW. Don't know if it's legit, but if it makes sense that it was. When you send your core rulebook out, change the wording on one of the page by like an extra space, and send the book out to 30 different YouTubers, and you could see which one released it based on the mistake or the grammatical error that you might have put in. Just saying. But for us, this is great. We got a PDF release. I don't know where it is from. I got it from a Reddit post that has since been taken down, so I can't share it, unfortunately. But let's have a look and let's go through it. So it's a cool picture. It's got a Terminator. We've seen this picture many a times through the reviews at the moment. And then in theory, have the man himself. From there, I'm going to put it back to one page because I think we struggle to read or see it. Anyway, so if that's better. That's better. Cool. Let's get settings right. So, like I said, we're going to have a computer reading it out. I think I've picked a better voice than my previous sort of video that came out. Let's see what it says. We'll go through each phase. And like I said, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that jazz. It really helps us.
Welcome to the Warhammer 40,000 core rules. The following pages contain everything you need to know in order to wage glorious battle across the war-torn galaxy of the 41 ST millennium. Warhammer 40,000 is a tabletop war game in which players command armies of citadel miniatures and attempt to defeat their opponent through a mixture of skill, tactics, and luck. Storytelling is at the core of Warhammer 40,000, with the rules designed to bring to life the epic conflicts between the forces of mankind, aliens, and diamonds in the grim darkness of the far future.
This is diamonds. Now, as much as I am severely dyslexic, my combination of mixed loads of different software is still horrendous for picking up words. So there'll be the odd one. Something I know it always picks out is like the content at the bottom of like headers and footers. So I'll try and edit as much as this out as possible. But aliens and diamonds. Let's see if they they fight. Obviously demons. But let's carry on.
Future. The purpose of the game is for all players to have an enjoyable shared experience, putting their tactical skills to the test while admiring the spectacle of amazing miniatures clashing on fantastic battlefields. In this spirit, good sportsmanship and politeness are at the heart of the game.
Always has been. It's good.
Games of Warhammer 40,000 are won by scoring more victory points than your opponent through achieving various objectives, from recovering vital relics to capturing enemy strongholds or eliminating the opposing warlord. The game is played in a series of battle rounds, broken into different phases during which players move, shoot, and fight with their miniatures. In a game as wide-ranging as Warhammer 40,000, there may be times when you are not sure exactly how to resolve a situation that has come up during play. When this happens, have a quick chat with your opponent and apply the solution that makes the most sense to both of you, or seems the most fun. If no single solution presents itself, you and your opponent should roll off, and whoever rolls highest gets to choose what happens. Then you can get on with the fighting.
Okay.
Core concepts, PG 5 to 9.
Okay. So then we got the page, as it were. So a little bit of contents of where everything is. So we've got the core concepts, which essentially is the rules, which is what we go into, what happens in each battle round, data sheets and unit abilities, strategic reserves, terrain features, muster your army, and missions. It only goes 60 pages. It's only a 60-page core rulebook, in a sense. Obviously, in the main rulebook, it's going to have loads of different things. Maybe a bit of background, lore, all of that jazz as well. But essentially, it's quite nice. It's quite small, I think. And there's a lot of pages that could be deleted. If you could get rid of the artwork, in a sense, and just make it as a core rulebook. I think that'll be boring myself. I like having a little bit on there. But as always, the abilities has a bit of hints and tips. So it's got symbols for what they are. So we've got red symbols, which are the ability sections. We've got hints and tips, which show in green. And then they have summaries as well. This is very standard in pretty much all rule books that I've played, and I've played since Rogue Trader. They tend to have got better at highlighting the convoluted and complex rules of everything in any game. 10th, in theory, has tried to show a more simpler approach, I think, is what they've gone through. I like the idea of it. 9th has been so complicated that you'd had to have multiple rule books, but I like this. They're keeping it standard. Let's carry on. We don't really need to know much more of that. Core concepts. We'll start from here. I think that makes sense for more reading.
Core concepts. This section introduces various rules terms that you will find throughout the core rules and beyond. These key concepts form the basis of the Warhammer 40,000 rules and are essential for every kind of battle. Missions. To play a game of Warhammer 40,000, you must first select a mission. The mission will tell you how to muster your armies, create your battlefield, and deploy your forces on the tabletop. It will also tell you any special rules that apply to the battle, and, most importantly, what you need to do to win. You can find out more about missions on pages 57 to 58. Armies.
Always like a reference.
Each player in a game of Warhammer 40,000 commands an army of Citadel miniatures, hereafter referred to as models.
Oh, Citadel miniatures.
The mission you have selected will guide you as to how big your army should be. Army, all of the models under your command. Units. Models move and fight in units. A unit can have one or more models from a single datasheet, see below. Models and units from the same army are said to be friendly in relation to each other. Models and units from your opponent's army are referred to as enemy models and units. If a rule affects a models or units without specifying that they are friendly or enemy, that rule affects all models or all units, regardless of whose army they are in.
Nice.
Unit, one or more models from the same datasheet. Friendly models, units, all models, units from the same army. Enemy models, units, all models, units from your opponent's army. Datasheets.
Datasheets.
The rules you will need to use your models in games are presented on datasheets. Each unit has a datasheet. You will need the datasheets for all the units from your army. You can find out more about datasheets on pages 37 to 38. Keywords. All datasheets have a list of keywords, separated into faction keywords and other keywords. Faction keywords can be used to help you decide which models to include in your army, but otherwise both sets of keywords are functionally the same. In either case, keywords appear in keyword bolo. Keywords are sometimes linked to or tagged by a rule. For example, a rule might say that it applies to infantry units. This means it only applies to units that have the infantry keyword on their datasheet. The pluralization, or otherwise, of keywords does not affect which units the rule in question applies to.
Okay, so in summary, it's all pretty standard. Your army and your units are friendly. The enemies are enemies. Abilities, unless stated, can affect everyone. It says affect friendly models, it only affects yours. It says affect enemies, it only affects enemies. And this can be saying is if something blows up and causes damage as an area effect. It says causes damage to models. Because it says models, you'd assume it is the rule that it affects everyone. It's nice that it's clear there, but it'd be interesting to know if they summarise that a little bit later on and they were only at the core concepts, a very small part of the rules. I find it a weird jump. I'm going from core concepts to unit coherency. So let's all read what their coherency is, just so it's a little bit more clear and if it makes more sense than ninth.
Unit coherency. A unit that contains more than one model must be set up and end any kind of move as a single group, with all of its models within 2 inches horizontally and 5 vertically of at least one other model from that unit. While a unit has 7 or more models, all of its models must instead be set up and end any kind of move within 2 inches horizontally and 5 vertically of at least 2 other models from that unit. This is called unit coherency. If for any reason a model cannot be set up in unit coherency, that model is destroyed. If a unit cannot end a move in unit coherency, it cannot make that move and its models are returned to their previous positions. At the end of every turn, each player must remove models, one at a time, from any of the units from their armies that are no longer in unit coherency, until only a single group of models from each of those units remains in play and in unit coherency. Models removed in this way count as having been destroyed, but they never trigger any rules that apply when a model is destroyed. Unit coherency, within 2 inches horizontally and s vertically of one other model from the same unit, in units of 2 to 6 models. 2 other models from the same unit, in units of 7 plus models. At the end of every turn, if a unit is not in unit coherency, the controlling player must remove models until that unit is in unit coherency again.
So I think that's a slight change. So one model in the same has to be within 2 inches or 5 inches vertically. This is for buildings and stuff like that. If the unit size is 2 to 6. So if they're 2 to 6, you only need to be coherent within 1. Which basically doesn't mean your units then become more of a bundle. So you can string them out basically. So you've got 2 at the ends and only coherency or 2 inches away from one model. The difference is when you have 7 models, that sort of mob or swarm effect model armies, then you're not going to have people on the end. You need to be more of a bundle in a sense. So you're those 2 inches from multiple models in the same unit. I like that. It also comes into play if there is something in precision shots where you're targeting specific models in a unit, if they've gone that from Heresy. But equally, you removing models as well. That is really vital. If you start removing models that have got gaps, you're going to be out of coherency, and then the ones that are not in coherency are going to be destroyed. And you can't do that purposely to try and trigger some after effect for when they die. As I said, never trigger any rules that apply when the model is destroyed. So they've been really clear on that, which is nice. It makes sense, and units should be in range. And it has a nice little diagram, literally just what I explained. So one's on the ends, all 2 inches here, and then the smaller squad can just be 2 inches away from one. Actually, that's probably 2 inches anyway, so it makes sense. Engagement range is always something that changes almost every edition, and it always tends to be a mess. I really like Heresy and the start of 7th edition, really, when you had to be in base contact. Obviously 8th and 9th did that 1 inch away. Let's see if engagement range has the effect as well on here.
Hints and ties. Wobbly models. Sometimes you may find that a particular terrain feature makes it hard for you to place a model exactly where you want to. If you delicately balance a model in place, it is very likely to fall as soon as someone nudges the table, leaving your painted model damaged or even broken.
No one there.
In cases like this, provided it is still physically possible to place the model in the desired location, you may find it helps to leave a model in a safer position, provided both players agree and know its actual location. If, later on, an enemy model is shooting the model, you will have to hold it back in place so that visibility can be determined.
Pretty standard.
Core rules. Core concepts. Engagement range. Engagement range represents the zone of threat that models present to their enemies. While a model is within L, horizontally, and 5, vertically of an enemy model, those models, and their units, within engagement range of each other. Models cannot be set up or end a normal, advance or fall back move within engagement range of any enemy models.
Okay.
If for any reason a model cannot meet this condition, that model is destroyed.
So you can trap people.
Engagement range, within 1 inch horizontally and S, vertically. Models cannot be set up or end a normal, advance or fall back move within engagement range of any enemy models. Battlefield.
So engagement range is basically 1 inch away from the enemy model, or 5 inches vertically if you're going through terrain, which I think is different change as well. Never really comes up that much because you normally use to measure from the bottom of the base, but they're not saying about base, so I think there is a section where it gets on about where you actually measure.
Battlefield. Battles of Warhammer 40,000 are fought on rectangular battlefields.
Yeah, a few triangle wheels.
This can be any surface upon which the models can stand, a dining table, for example, or the floor. Your mission will guide you as to the size of battlefield required. Terrain features. The scenery on a battlefield can be represented by models from the Warhammer 40,000 range. These models are called terrain features to differentiate them from the models that make up an army. Terrain features are set up on the battlefield before the battle begins. You can find out more about terrain features on pages 44 to 48.
Yeah, we'll cover that.
Unless the mission you are playing instructs you otherwise, you should feel free to create an exciting battlefield using any terrain features from your collection. Measuring distances. Distances in Warhammer 40,000 are measured in inches. You can measure distances whenever you wish.
Good to know.
When measuring the distance between models, measure between the closest points of the bases of the models you're measuring to and from. If a model does not have a base, measure to the closest point of any part of that model instead.
Ooh.
If a rule says it applies within a certain distance, it applies at any distance that is not more than the specified distance. For example, within L means any distance that is not more than L away.
I think that without a base can be dangerous, especially with certain vehicles. that are so long and so narrow or whiny or leggy. Take the brass scorpion for a perfect example. There's always been problems of where you measure to. Normally it used to be to the hole. Where it says if it doesn't have a base, measure to the closest point of any part of the model. So it's basically closest to closest. I think, if you're going gamey terms, at really ultra competitive, you put a really long leg of a brass scorpion, you can make that longer than others, and you can actually make it quite small in sections as well. So I know it's always problematic, and again, keep in mind the start of this is all about having fun and the spirit and politeness of the game. Don't be the douches doing that. But it's interesting they put it in there, so it's there. I think interpretation is more about vehicles and tanks and that, a little bit more blocky things. But there's definitely vehicles out there that are a little bit more, can leave a little bit more interpretation or can stretch out a little bit further than other models. The determining visibility, this has always been something that's caused errors and problems with terrain, seeing through if you're touching the terrain or not seeing through. I like the standard rules. If I can see it, I can shoot it. Let's see if that's going to be here or not.
Determining visibility. Warhammer 40,000 uses true line of sight to determine visibility between models. To check this, get a model's perspective review by looking from behind the observing model. For the purposes of determining visibility, an observing model can see through other models in its unit, and a model's base is also part of that model. Model visible if any part of another model can be seen from any part of the observing mode, that other model is visible to the observing model. Unit visible. If one or more models in a unit is visible to the observing model, then that model's unit is visible to the observing model. Model fully visible. If every part of another model that is facing the observing model can be seen from any part of the observing model, then that other model is said to be fully visible to the observing model, i.e. the observing model has line of sight to all parts of the other model that are facing it, without any other models or terrain features blocking visibility to any of those parts. Unit fully visible. If every model in a unit is fully visible to an observing model, then that unit is fully visible to that observing model. For the purposes of determining if an enemy unit is fully visible, an observing model can see through other models in the unit it is observing. Model visible, if any part of a model can be seen, it is visible. Unit visible, if any model in a unit is visible, that model's unit is visible. Model fully visible, if every facing part of a model can be seen, it is fully visible. Unit fully visible, if every model in a unit is fully visible, that unit is fully visible.
Okay, a lot of visibles there. And basically, ironically, getting rid of the invisible. I think the biggest change in here is if you can see it, you can shoot it. There might be differences on the terrain rules, but at the moment, it's if you can see it, you can shoot it. If you can see one model, you can shoot a whole unit in that shooting phase, in that shooting phase from that unit shooting. Sorry. So let's take one of these pictures. So let's say this one here. It's fully visible, but all of his friends, all the rest of the unit, are behind this barricade. Say. When you're shooting, you don't just kill the one you see anymore. You're killing all of them. Then when you move on to another unit, let's say the front one's now dead, you can't see the rest of the unit, even though the previous squad you've shot with could. So it's determining on where you're going to shoot, and it determines where your order, but also as an enemy getting shot. determine when you're going to pick, which models you're going to pick as well, because it does affect the next unit shooting at them. But if you misplace units, or if you've got terrain and there's a lot of terrain with a lot of windows and things like that, you're getting shot because they're being seen. There's nothing blocking line of sight at the moment. Like it a lot. Makes sense, gets rid of the jankiness, gets rid of the L block terrain where everyone's just hiding 2 inches in, because that's the rules in ninth. If I'm seeing you, I'm shooting you. Now the disadvantage of this, it might need tournament organisers to change their terrain by quite a lot, so combat armies just don't get obliterated on turn 1, because if there isn't anything that's blocking line of sight, an actual proper blocking line of sight, as if visually, rather than just big L's with nothing and there's still windows, you're gonna be interesting. Does mean you need to be a lot more tactful how you set up, and coming out of the terrain. Coming out of the terrain, you're going to be shot at. Are you going to shoot one thing and then be left open? It leaves better tactics, and this is something from Heresy and from quite a lot of editions that it just makes sense to me. If I can see you, I can shoot you. Hats off, love this, brilliant. I play Tyranids, and they're my favourite army, and it is a struggle when you haven't got the right setup on terrain. And it's something in friendly games you could say, you could say all bottom terrain has no windows. If you just want to get used to it and stuff like that. In tournaments, that's a lot harder to organise, so it's something just to consider for you organisers. You might want to put it in there if you wanted to. I generally don't recommend that, because I think actually throwing an extra tactical strategy to the game, and depth to the game, of actually hiding your models that you don't want to be shot at, just making sure you have the right terrain for the games, or almost. Like it. It's something I've had to do because I've got a Heresy tournament planned in 8th of July. Most of my terrain has good blocking, visual blocking, or line of sight blocking terrain in. So yeah, brilliant, love it, great rule. Do we really need to get a computer to read about dice rolling? I don't think so. Let's just have a little bit of a look. As it explains what a D3 is. 1, 2 is 1, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 3. Or just get a D3. They are available out there. That's what I do. Saves the hassle. Rerolls. There we go.
Some rules allow you to reroll a dice roll, which means you get to roll some or all of the dice again. If a rule allows you to reroll a dice roll that was made by adding several dice together, e.g. 2d6, 3d6, etc., then, unless otherwise stated, you must reroll all of those dice again.
Good clarification.
You can never reroll a dice more than once, and rerolls happen before modifiers, if any, are applied.
Okay.
Rules that refer to the value of an unmodified dice roll are referring to the dice result after any rerolls, but before any modifiers are applied. Unmodified dice, the result after rerolls, but before any modifiers.
Okay.
A dice can never be rerolled more than once. You must reroll all dice if several need adding together, e.g. 2d6. Rerolls are applied before any modifiers. Roll OFFS. Some rules instruct players to roll off. To do so, both players roll 1d6, and whoever scores highest wins the roll-off. If there is a tie for the highest roll off again. Neither player is allowed to re-roll or modify any of the d6 when making a roll-off.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sequencing. While playing Warhammer 40,000, you'll occasionally find that 2 or more rules are to be resolved at the same time.
Always.
If this occurs during the battle, the player whose turn it is chooses the order. If this occurs before or after the battle, or at the start or end of a battle round, the players roll off and the winner decides the order in which those rules are resolved. The battle round.
Okay. So the thing to take from that really is nothing. Nothing's changed. Apart from less otherwise stated, if you're re-rolling all the dice. It says you're re-rolling your shots and you've got 2d6 and you like the 6 you just rolled and you just want to re-roll the 1. No, you're re-rolling everything. It's a gamble in that sense. Same applies for charges. There is things going to be in the game because it says in there unless otherwise stated. You just re-roll everything. It's good clarification, makes sense, easy. So next video I'm going to talk about battle rounds and let's go from there. I think that's enough for this quick video, trying to keep things a little bit easier and easier to follow for you. That's it so far. Tell me what you think so far. Let us know. Next video gets onto the juicy bits at least. So far it's good. There isn't many changes, but the changes they make, I think they're better for the game so far. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, all of that jazz. Chat to you soon. Hopefully you follow us next.